In this exercise, I'm going to show you how to add text to an image inside Photoshop. Now, something to bear in mind where text is concerned. Text is ultimately scalable, meaning that if you enlarge the graphic, the text will scale along with it and remain smooth. But the text ultimately conforms to the resolution of the image, meaning that you can end up creating choppy text in Photoshop if you're not careful, which is why most people don't use Photoshop as a text creation program unless you're trying to create special effects, where it can be pretty useful, or you're trying to create text for a web graphic. And that's what we're trying to do in this case. I'm working inside of a document called lab+bc.psd. And in this case, I was creating this graphic for my website, Deek.com, that was talking about the lab color mode. It's a special color mode that's available to you inside of Photoshop, something of an advanced topic. But when you add it to brightness contrast, you end up getting some fantastic results. So I need to type in the word lab here at the top of the screen, and then plus, a little plus sign, and then we're going to have brightness contrast underneath. So fairly simple little task here. The first step is to select the type tool. And even though there's several type tools available to us, if you click and hold on the type tool icon, you'll see this flyout menu here. Really, for most of our purposes, for Western type, the only thing you need is the horizontal type tool. So I'll just go ahead and select that tool. You can also get to the type tool just by pressing the T key, which is worth noting because it looks like a T. All right, and then I'm going to click in order to set my blinking insertion marker as you see right there. You can also drag with the tool. If you want to create a paragraph of type inside of Photoshop, you can drag with the tool in order to create a text block. But I just want to create just a single word. So I can just work with what's called point text, text that emanates from a specific point. And I'm going to type the text that I need, which is LAB+. That's all I'm looking for. And then to complete that type, I go ahead and press the Enter key on the keypad. So not the standard Enter key, the one above the Shift key, but way over on the keypad, press that Enter key. And you'll not only accept the type, but you'll also deactivate it so that you can work with other tools if you like. All right, now let's set about formatting that type. Notice that when I have the type tool active, as I do right now, there's a handful of formatting attributes that are available to me up here inside of the options bar. For example, there's the font family. I could go ahead and click on this font in order to activate it. And then if I'm just curious what other fonts look like in my system, I can press the down arrow key. And notice that's going to advance from one font to the next. Or I could press the up arrow key to go back the other direction. It's a great way to preview what a font's going to look like. Or you can just go ahead and enter the name of the font. For example, I know that I want to work with Courier New. And so I just have to type in as much text as it takes to get Photoshop to go ahead and select that font. And then I'll press the Tab key to advance to the Style option. And I'll press the down arrow key a couple of times to advance to Bold, because this is the font I want. I want Courier New Bold. And I'm going to press Tab again to get to the size option. And I could press the up arrow key in order to increase the size of the type, like so. Or I could press Shift arrow to increase it by higher increments. Notice that the type size is not updating until I go ahead and accept it. The type size I'm looking for this specific effect is 60 point. And then I'm going to press the Enter key or the Return key on the Mac in order to apply that type size. All right, now let's go ahead and move the type into a better position. And I'll do that by grabbing my Move tool and dragging the type around like so. And I can also nudge the text as long as I have the Move tool active. I could press the arrow keys in order to nudge the text around. And I'm doing this because when you're moving layers inside Photoshop, and as you may see over here in the Layers panel, by creating some type, we've created an independent type layer. When you're moving layers around, they have a propensity to snap into alignment with each other. So the easiest way to override that, there's a command you can choose, but the easiest way to override it, temporarily is to press the arrow keys to nudge the text by 1 pixel increments. All right, anyway, I think that looks pretty good. Now let's say that we want to format some of the text independently of the other text. For example, I want this plus sign to be smaller. It's way too big. So I'll go back to my type tool. And I will drag over that plus sign in order to select it. And I want to change the size of this text to say 52 point. So I'll just go ahead and enter 52 point. Or here's a really handy keyboard shortcut. Let's go ahead and change this back to 60 here. Another way to work is you can press Control and Shift on the PC or Command and Shift on the Mac, along with the greater than or lesser than keys. And those are the same as the period and comma keys. So for example, if I press Control-Shift or Command-Shift greater than sign, that's the period key, I'm going to make the text incrementally larger. If I press Control-Shift or Command-Shift less than, which is the comma key, I'm going to make the text incrementally smaller. And I'm going to take it down to 52 point. I think that looks pretty good. And I might also want to go ahead and move this plus sign down a little bit. Something that's known as baseline shift, incidentally. But I don't see any baseline shift option up here in the options bar. These are just the most common attributes. So in order to bring up the other formatting attributes, I click on this icon right there, which brings up the character and paragraph panels. And then I'll see this option right there. Notice if I hover over it, it tells me that this is the baseline shift. And I'm going to go ahead and click inside of there and then just press the down arrow key a couple of times until I reduce that value to -2, which looks right to me. I think it actually looks pretty darn good. Then I'll press the enter key on the keypad again, a couple of times, because the first time I'm just accepting this value. The second time, I'm accepting my changes to this text. So that is the enter key on the keypad. You can also, check this out, you could also, if you change some text and then you backspace it and you do some other things to it, whatever, modify the text. If you don't like what you've done at all during this entire little session of text editing right here, then you can press the escape key in order to abandon all changes that you've made to the text. All right, so that takes care of the text that I want to add. There's all kinds of other attributes that you can explore inside the character and paragraph panels. I'm going to go ahead and close these panels, however. The other thing I want to do is I want to fill my text with these colors right here. Now, you can color type in different ways. You can actually, for example, I could select the letter A, and I could change the color of the type here inside the color panel. So I could make that a bright red if I want to, just by dragging these slider triangles around. And when I finish, I'd go ahead and press the enter key on the keypad once again. So that's how you color type. But here's another way to work. I'm going to go ahead and undo that modification. I want the text to be colored according to these little swatches I've created in the background here. I want the L to be filled with a gradient, and the A to be filled with magenta and green, and the B to be filled with yellow and blue. And I'm going to do that by moving my colors right here. Notice this colors layer. I'm going to move it up to in front of my lab text. That ends up covering it up, of course. And then I want to clip these colors to the text. And I'm going to do that by going up to the layer menu and choosing Create Clipping Mask. And that's going to clip the colors inside of the letters. Notice that. So they're indented, and we have this little arrow icon showing us that the colors are only going to color this text. And then if I want to, I could get that move tool once again, and I could drag the colors up and down, or I could press the down arrow key if I want to, in order to just nudge those colors down slightly so that they fill the letters that much better. And that completes my composition. I've gone ahead and added text to a web graphic by taking advantage of the type tool here inside Photoshop.